Hello team and welcome back to Winners and Losers, where we take a look at the highs and the lows from the game week just past. And before we delve in with my much esteemed guests Joseph and William, a quick reminder that this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Manscaped. And if you've let things get a little bit unruly down there in this lockdown, come on, we're all guilty of it. We've got you covered. You can get 20% off Manscaped's stellar products and free shipping with the discount code FootballDaily. Visit the link on screen right now or in the description below to take advantage of this deal. You'll be supporting us, which we very much appreciate, and I am contractually obliged to say your balls will thank you. Breaking news then, guys. We've just finished shooting winners and losers, but we've had to jump back on because there's been some seismic movement in the Premier League landscape. Frank Lampard, according to multiple media outlets, is set to get the chop today. After 19 months in charge, a 220 million spend this summer, only 2 victories in his last 8 in the Premier League, of course, costing him, it would appear. And now Sky Germany are reporting that Tuchel is set to take over. The Athletic have said that Ralf Rangnick might come in on a short-term basis. Chelsea have already had to deny the return of Avram Grant. So we'll keep this short and sweet, gentlemen, because we're still stabbing around in the dark a little bit. I'm going to ask you one question and one question only. Joe, does Lampard deserve the chop?
Oh my God. I don't want to sit on the fence too much here, but I might have to a little bit. Because look, I remember sitting down, I think it was with Zach a few weeks ago. I can't remember, it was a Sunday Vibes or something like that. And we were just chatting about whether or not Frank would survive the season. And I remember saying that unlike Ollie and unlike Arteta, Chelsea have a real trigger-happy nature. Like, Ollie and Arteta have been able to get through tricky periods, I think, because the nature of the club allows a manager more time. Chelsea have seen so much success over the years from a consistent rotation of manager that they would have no problem sacking Frank Lampard. I think it's unsurprising, but also shocking at the same time. I don't know whether that makes sense. Like, I think everybody would have said that he's close to the edge because of how trigger happy are, because of how bad the results have been. He's close to the edge, but equally, I think everybody was almost saying that just to like banter the Chelsea fans a little bit. Like, did we actually believe they were going to chop him? In my head, I'm like, oh, I'm not too sure I did now. And now he's gone. I'm like, they've actually done it. Like, they've actually gone out and done it. But I feel a little bit sorry for Frank because the pressure's been so ramped up at Chelsea. It has to be said that he now, where does he go? Like, it's a difficult position for him to be in following on from Chelsea. It's only going to be a step backwards in his career, whatever. But either way, if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be both gutted that a legend's gone and excited that a Tuchel is going to take over because this squad is hot. It is probably the 3rd best squad in the league. Probably the best young squad in the league, if that makes sense. Like, I think Liverpool and Man City have better squads, but they're a bit more advanced in their development, whereas Chelsea have got so many exciting young talents. If the right manager came in, if a Tuchel did come in, I think they could blossom and very quickly become like title challengers under a manager like Tuchel. I think he'd be a great option for them. Very exciting, also very worrying for rival teams. I feel quite sad for Frank Lampard, but yeah, it was probably the right decision.
Yeah, just to touch upon a point you just raised there, it is probably been his lack of ability to ascertain the most from this squad that's cost him, right? And a clear game plan not prevailing in recent weeks with that front 3, even front 6 ever changing, right? And I know that Havertz and Werner's form has been of great worry to the Chelsea hierarchy. That's been reported pretty readily, hasn't it? But maybe he's been a little bit of a victim of fast-tracking Chelsea's progress when he took over, because there was a lot of talk about a long-term rebuild, Will, and then all of a sudden 66 points was inexplicably enough to get them into the Champions League last season. All of a sudden the Champions League is on the horizon, and that's maybe what triggered that £200 million plus spend, bought in high-profile names, all of a sudden lost that goodwill from bedding in that the homegrown talent, and there was a need to get results straight away, which he did in the Champions League, to be fair. And under the hood, I don't think his numbers were any worse than Maurizio Sarri's. But given the spend, they maybe didn't make enough progress. Will, I'm going to ask you the same question. Hopefully you had enough time to really gather your thoughts. Does Frank Lampard deserve the axe?
I think so, definitely. I think when you take the emotion and the PR out of it all, and the bit of the fanfare around him being an ex-Chelsea legend, and then you add into the fact everything that Joe said about Chelsea's sort of fickle nature and just making it a business decision, which at the end of the day, lads, football's a business. Wake up, smell the roses. Frank Lampard's out of the job. I mean, when you look at him compared to I think it was the points per game doing the rounds the other week, and he was at the bottom of that. When you take everything out of that, it's not that shocking. I think Joe put the nail on the head. I think it's because it's Monday morning and we're still waking up to see a big breaking news that Frank Lampard's gone. That's the shocking part of it. But he was sort of doing okay with the squad, but I think that Leicester performance was really shocking in the fact that Brendan Rodgers' team, as well as playing better, they just outrun, outfought and outplayed them, which I don't know if he'd lost the dressing room, if that's too dramatic to say, but it was those performances where, sometimes they were being outclassed by a bit of magic, but that Leicester one, for me, was sort of maybe the nail in the coffin, and yeah, thanks for the memories, Frank.
He got a little bit of leeway last season for not having a world-class player at his disposal, like Maurizio Sarri had Eden Hazard, so on and so forth, but he has had that this season, and it's not really improved results significantly, has it? And they have seen themselves overtaken by clubs who were, they were supposed to be clear of post this spend, and especially given the squad they have, like Joe said. Okay, that is our thoughts on the matter very, very quickly. The rest of Winners and Losers is coming up now. God knows how the editor is going to cut this together. Good luck and God bless to him. But stick with us for Odegaard chat, Manchester United versus Liverpool. We talk Newcastle as our losers, and then also pick your moments of the week. So stay tuned. Joseph, how was your weekend, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. We had a bit of snow in London. Then obviously United knocked Liverpool out of the cup, which is always a sight to behold, isn't it? I'm sure we'll chat a little bit about that during the show. Yeah. But generally pretty good. Also got to finally see Chandler in the UFC, put on a bit of a clinic, and McGregor get knocked on his arse. So pretty fun all round, mate.
Yeah, so you take advantage of the snow for the gram, mate. Living that gram life. William, how are you?
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute joke, isn't it? I mean, you guys down south in London, you think you've never seen snow before, the amount of Instagrams I've seen this weekend. So, just get hold of yourself, lads.
We don't get it, mate. We don't get it down here.
Come on, it's very early in the show to fall out. Let's move on to the talking point, and we'll keep this brief because we covered him on Sunday Vibes yesterday. However, I thought that Martin Odegaard would move to Real Sociedad or Sevilla, but it looks like, according to David Ornstein, at the very least, that he's having a medical at Arsenal today. He might be announced later on this afternoon. And just to, clear any Arsenal fans' conscience, he does have an elite sport person exemption, which will mean that he doesn't have to isolate before joining the squad and will be available for selection should he sign pretty much straight away on the back of a negative COVID-19 test, of course. They're going to set to pay a £2 million fee for the 6-month loan, but there won't be an option to buy him at the end of the loan, as earlier reported. Now, Joseph, we discussed some of the merits of this move yesterday, but one, do you see him getting game time? Because that is why he's leaving Real Madrid, but of course Smith Rowe playing so well in that number 10 position. And two, What does he bring to this side in the final third?
I'm definitely going to get game time. You just can't rely on a 20-year-old Emile Smith-Rowe who's had injury problems throughout the season to play every minute of every game in that 10 position. That would be totally ridiculous from an Arsenal perspective, and I think this is a fantastic signing for a number of different reasons. I'm actually excited by this signing, and it's an Arsenal signing. That's how impressed I am. And I'm a little bit disappointed they couldn't get the option to buy. Not that it'll come back to bite him, but I've just got images of him having a really good 3 or 4 months and then just losing him. But overall, I think this is an awesome move to be able to rotate Emile Smith-Rowe with Martin Odegaard in that 10 position. Is really exciting for both Arsenal fans and Mikel Arteta. You know you're going to get high key pass numbers. You know you're going to get decent dribble numbers. I think both of those sort of over 2 a game at Sociedad, even higher than that in the sorts of 3 region per game when he was in Holland. So you're going to get creativity, you're going to get dribbling, you're going to get defensive output. I think last season he won the ball back the 7th most times in the entire La Liga in the opposition third. So he's going to press hard for you. And generally, it's just that sort of transfer that has a bit of buzz about it, isn't it? It's a sort of transfer where he's even though he hasn't played an awful lot of minutes, he feels like quite a big name because he was touted by so many big clubs. He was being shown round all these sort of super club facilities, wasn't it? United, Liverpool, City, Madrid, ended up at Madrid. And now the hype has still started to like bubble away a little bit. Now he's getting a Premier League move because he was really impressive at Sociedad. It's not worked out for him this season at Madrid. I think a few Madrid fans are a little bit sceptical about letting him go out on loan. At the same time, Jovic is absolutely smashing it at Frankfurt. But I think this is a great move for Arsenal, great move for Mikel Arteta, and Edu's done really good business this January.
Yeah, and it surely brings some other matters to a close, doesn't it? Because Arsenal have been consistently linked with Buendia from Norwich. Of course, they are in a promotion fight, so chances of letting him go were very slim, weren't they? Julian Brandt, of course, not getting a whole lot of game time at Dortmund, and Szoboszlai, that was the one that sort of persisted, but it's not materialised. Will, do you think it'd be fair to drop him straight in the number 10 position over Smith Rowe? Does his profile command that he starts straight away?
I mean, I think he's going to have to, isn't he? Like you said, that the profile is going to have to see him start straight away. But it's quite intriguing. It's a little bit of confidence boost for Martin, really, if I can call him Martin. I've never met him. But, I mean, to not have that option to buy at the end of it, obviously gives him future plans for Real Madrid down the line. But when we were doing a bit of preparation for this, I was just thinking it's almost like the opposite of what happened to Jude Bellingham, because I was so glad that Jude didn't go to like a Man United or a Real Madrid, just because you've seen with Martin Odegaard that the spotlight can sort of stifle that progression so early on. And he is 22 and he is going to still become a class player. But when he was linked with Real Sociedad, and if he could have gone on a permanent over there, I think that would have just seen a bit more, maybe a bit of a faster progression, just because you can get on with your job, out of the limelight a little bit more and crack on. But now he's being dropped in at Arsenal, 6 months, obviously going back to Real Madrid, but it's just quite intriguing.
Yeah, a couple of small injuries halting that progression that you just mentioned at Real Madrid this season. He has some calf injuries. It's kept him out for like 6 to 10 games. However, not started a La Liga game since late November, and he has been available for a lot of minutes after that. Was given 5 minutes against Celta Vigo in early Jan, and that is sort of the death knell of his Real Madrid career, at least from this season's perspective. And I'm not sure how excited he will be to return to where Zinedine Zidane led Real Madrid, but things can change very quickly at the capital club, and who knows, if Atleti continue to run away with the league title, maybe he won't be in charge come the summer. Okay, let's move on to our winners then, because I know Joe is absolutely bursting at the seams to talk about them. He's got his tracksuit top on, he's looking the part. Manchester United, of course, defeating Liverpool 3-2 at Old Trafford in the FA Cup 4th round. They'll now play West Ham in the 5th round on February 10th. I believe that's at Old Trafford as well. Thank you to at Rashford10FC for suggesting this. Pretty clear where his loyalties lie. And Joseph, it was a game where the forwards seemed to really excel, and maybe no one else did. I'm not sure if you think that's a fair assessment. Firmino, of course, 2 assists. Salah, 2 goals. Greenwood and Rashford both trading assists and goals, the latter having a scan on his knee this morning, which we may want to touch upon. And Bruno Fernandes, of course, his numbers, his ridiculous numbers continue, don't they? Can you give me a couple of things, let's say 3 things, Joe, that you're most impressed about by that Manchester United performance last night?
Yeah, for sure. First one continues to be Luke Shaw. Our most vital player alongside Bruno in the last 3 months, taking his game to new heights. This is probably the best football he's played at Manchester United right now. So impressive. And I think people forget he's still only 25. If this form continues, you're looking at an outstanding Manchester United fullback right now. He's so vital to how we want to play. Brilliant going forward. I don't know where this dribbling ability's come from, but he's suddenly started to breeze past people like they're not there. He's added set pieces to his game. He wasn't taking corners last season. He is taking corners this season, and to much success. The second most chances created in the Man United squad this season, Luke Shaw. A little bit sloppy at times defensively, especially in his positioning. He often lets people come on the inside of him a little bit when there's balls threaded through. He lets people get on the wrong shoulder, which is obviously something he needs to work on, but no one can deny he's taking his game to new heights this season. He's absolutely flourishing, and I think right now he's England's best left back. He should be England's starter at the Euros. Chilwell, not quite having the season people thought he would have. Even though he started really well, he's experienced a little bit of a dip. I'm sure he'll come back. And I think maybe James Justin is a bit of a shout in there as well. Another one, then number 2, I would say Paul Pogba. His burst back to form continues. Just exceptional last month or so for Pogba. Ever since those transfer rumours, really. He's refound his feet. He looks fitter. He's working harder off the ball. Looks incredibly creative. And even though, like you said there, Bruno's numbers obviously imperious. He's taken a lot of weight off Bruno's shoulders in the last few weeks, scoring some really important goals, putting in some really impressive displays. And then I would say Rashford as well. Rashford, when he wants to, when Rashford turns up, he's almost unplayable now. Like, he just drifts past people like they're not even there. And I know, I did feel a little bit sorry for Reece Williams last night, because obviously you're asking Reece Williams to try and defend against like Rashford and Cavani, and it's
one-on-one
it's a
as
tough,
well, yeah.
It's a tough job, isn't it? It's a tough job for anybody in world football. That so I really felt for him. It has to be said, but there was a few times where kind of Rashford isolated him, and I just thought, oh, it's poor lads. Just you know he's going to get rinsed here, which is great from a Rashford perspective, because you didn't have that confidence in him a season or so ago, and the finish yesterday was really impressive, because he's got a bit of a tendency, Rashford, just to lash at it and absolutely whack the ball when he's through one-on-one. But yesterday, just calm, placed it under Alisson, nice little finish. So yeah, those would be my 3 biggest positives. But overall, I thought United were the better team, and I thought we deserved the win, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like you said, Paul Pogba there, maybe not putting in a, dynamic performance, but it was a team performance, wasn't it? And I think he was eventually given man of the match, which, maybe Luke Shaw deserved, but that's neither here nor there. Will, were there any aspects of Liverpool's play that disappointed you whatsoever? It was a fairly even game, 14 shots apiece, 6 each on target, so I feel like they could have, left with a result. But was there any standout negatives for you in the Reds' ranks?
I think it's easy to go to that back 4, but I think, like Joe said, obviously that's just sort of been cobbled together, and there's a lot of youth in there as well. I think it was interesting that they actually scored some goals, which is obviously great for Liverpool to see. And that front 3 sort of maybe getting a bit of fluidity back. They created a lot of chances. Jimmy Milner getting forward more like he was back in his Leeds United days, clean shaven on his way. So I think it was it's just great to see them. Well, not great to see them. I'm not a Liverpool fan, but it was good for Liverpool fans to get them back scoring as well. And I mean, there's this constant rumour going around that the relationship soured between all 3 of them up front, especially between Salah and Mane. But it's just a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, you don't know what's going on in the inner workings of the camp, and they've been at the top of the game for 2.5 years, so there's going to be a bit of drop off there. But to get 2 goals at Old Trafford, I mean, I feel like I'm watching the treble VHS, Joe. I mean, it's like back in time. United knocking off Liverpool, getting these wins over and over again. It's just, I feel like I'm in the time war.
I just felt like Liverpool actually played pretty well yesterday, and like you said, they could have come away with a point, but I still felt like it just felt a little bit disjointed. Like I don't know what's happened to the fullback situation at Liverpool, but I felt like they've lost almost all the fullback creativity this season, and that's such a vital part of how they play the game and to their success over the last 2 seasons. That when you don't have that output from Trent, it's such a big hole that it makes it adds extra pressure to that forward line. Like, I actually thought Firmino played really well yesterday. He was like picking the ball up. There was a moment where he won the ball back off Shaw, and the ball through to Salah was exceptional. And I just thought, this is a bit more Firmino. And Salah's finishing was really good. Obviously, Mane was benched, so I thought the front 3 was actually okay yesterday. I think Trent's struggling a little bit, and I'm not too sure how Klopp solves that situation. Maybe just plays him and gets him through it. Because when you lose that amount of output, he's only got 2 assists this season. When you lose that sort of 6 or 7 assists at this point of a season from your fullbacks, I think that's a big problem. And that's one that needs to be addressed just as much as the front 3 not scoring goals.
Yeah, I think it was impressive the way that United doubled up. It was more prevalent probably with Paul Pogba and Andy Robertson on that right-hand side. But you saw Marcus Rashford just sort of sitting halfway between Reece Williams and Trent Alexander-Arnold, and that was pretty much the game plan throughout. That's what was, penetrating Liverpool's ranks mostly, wasn't it? And United played really well on the counter, and I agree with you. I think they played the more fluid football. Liverpool looked a little bit awkward. Thiago Alcantara having to drop back, left a bit of a void in midfield, creativity-wise. Curtis Jones sort of shifted around a couple of times, wasn't he? Not at his his best, and he can be influential when he's on song, despite being very young. But United worked really hard, and Scott McTominay could have been a little bit better on the ball. Obviously, Fred came on to shore things up. Didn't want to see Greenwood go off after the hour mark, but of course, that was definitely part of Ollie's game plan, wasn't it? Just to see it out. But let's go back to something that Will mentioned. This result does feel a little bit more emphatic, let's say, just because Liverpool are struggling so much in the league. Now, in fact, they are, after 19 games in the Premier League, 21 points worse off than they were at this stage last season. And this caps not just a miserable week for them, but a miserable month and a bit, doesn't it? Because after they thrashed Crystal Palace 7-0, they've now lost to Southampton and Burnley and drawn with West Brom, Newcastle and Manchester United in league play. And I think only Chelsea have had a worse points differential at this stage when defending a league title. So I just want to touch upon something that Jamie Carragher said in commentary, where he commented that Liverpool might be in a real dogfight now to even qualify for the Champions League, Joe. Do you think it's that deep, or do you expect them just... Because they have been extremely lucky in terms of, chances converted, haven't they? Or do you think they're going to come storming back?
I think they're going to come storming back for sure. This season, I feel like people aren't learning from how up and down it is. Like, teams are having massive lows and massive highs week on week. The issues will remain, though. That's the only problem I've got with Liverpool, is they're not going to get Van Dijk and Joe Gomez back. It's not as if those two are going to come back and things are going to change. So I think things have got to change in the squad. And I was looking at their fixtures this morning. Their fixture list is ugly over the next 5 weeks. Tottenham away, West Ham away, City, Leicester, Leipzig, Everton up next. And I look at that, I think, bloody hell, Liverpool desperately need to pick up some form. And I don't really know how, whether that's getting Henderson back into that midfield role, whether that's trying to find a solution in the January market for the centre-back issue, which probably is the way to go, in my opinion, because having Fabinho back there is causing such unbalance in that midfield and the way they want to press high and the way they want to be intense, that I think they might need to dip into that January market. I really do, because at the moment, things are just starting to unravel a little bit, and I don't think they will. I think they'll finish comfortably in the top 4, but if I was Klopp, I'd be a little bit worried.
Hopefully, the reintroduction of Naby Keita and other influential members of this team who have been on the injury list will see an upturn in form for the Reds. Let's move on to our losers then. This comes from Ethan1570, and I feel like there's very little chance of an upturn here, gentlemen. It's Newcastle once more. I kind of feel a bit fed up of beating up on Steve Bruce, because there's nothing new to say about them, is there? They're averaging the second fewest shots in the Premier League per night on 8.5. That's hideous. And they're conceding the second most. I mean, that is more shots conceded and less shots taken than in Rafa's last season, when it was not starting to unravel, but they weren't necessarily the best, but there was still a clear game plan there. So ultimately, this is dull and not very effective football. Joe, can you think of any January signings, maybe in their price range, that is the sort of shot in the arm that this club needs? And maybe, I don't want to tempt fate, but do you think Newcastle are firmly in the relegation scrap now?
Oh, Newcastle are definitely in a relegation scrap, 100%.
They were safe about 2 weeks ago, weren't they?
Even though the points suggest that they are clear of it at the moment, the football they're playing does not. And I think the reactions that you saw on the pitch after that Aston Villa game are quite telling. Some of the players were almost in tears after that loss. And I thought, bloody hell, the morale in this group is low, isn't it, right now? And I'm not sure if it can get much lower. I honestly think Steve Bruce is coming to the end of his tenure at Newcastle at the moment. It just feels like it's fizzling out. Every time I watch him in a press conference and he's talking about, I want to play it my way, and he's trying to show this sort of bite and grit and aggression, the performance that follows doesn't match up with it. I just worry for him pretty badly at the moment, because there's a couple of decent managers on the market. I don't think any January transfer comes in and resolves this issue. It's a fundamental issue within the core of the club. There's a huge problem there. There's been chat, obviously, we all know the chat has started to sparkle again over the weekend that Benitez could return after leaving Dalian Yufang, if that's how you pronounce the club's name. But he's available again now. So could he come back? I'd be very surprised to see Rafa return. I don't think that's anywhere in his mind. Like, why would he go back? He did his job there.
Yeah, Guillaume Balaguer dismissed those links, didn't he, with both Newcastle and Celtic, much to my chagrin. I mean, it felt like a fairly obvious question asking Joe if Newcastle were in a relegation scrap, because I feel like anyone who watched him from like week 10 onwards would have suggested so. But I mean, Fulham's form, no wins in 5, is kind of maybe masked Newcastle's decline a little bit. Brighton's still below them despite playing far superior football. Obviously Burnley, Wolves and Palace around them. So it is starting to look really ugly, Will. Do you think, who is your favourites now to join West Brom and Sheffield United in the drop?
Yeah, no, I'd put Newcastle in there, Chris, just because of dull and ineffective. That's Newcastle, isn't it? And I was thinking maybe an addition into the backroom staff might sort of brighten things up if Steve Bruce is going to stay. There'd been Graham Jones from Bournemouth, but I'm out of ideas. I think Steve Bruce is out of ideas, and like Joe said, it was like the end of the world. I mean, you think of all the football socials that we had, all the people managed by Steve Bruce, everyone that came on said he's a great man manager. So that side of it, I think he's got the support of the team, and even from that little incident at the end of the game, that's clear to see. But it just feels like he's getting tactically outclassed, and obviously they had the terrible incident with COVID, and they've not reacted well to that. And St Maximan's probably the biggest creative output and definitely the most direct, and not having him when you see Joe Linton out on the left wing, you think, well, yeah, they're definitely going to be in my bottom 3. So it's just something needs to happen. Graham Jones is a backroom staff member. Introduction there. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I don't know. That's
a very left field shot. I wasn't expecting that. That's sort of akin to Craig Shakespeare joining Aston Villa, and all of a sudden them having a decent defensive back line. So I like you've gone hunting for extra staff for Newcastle. You can tell that you've been geeking it out on Football Manager, mate. Let's move on to the numbers game then, and we've only got one question each this week, because I felt like when we did 3 it just went on for a bit too long, and to be honest, Dave Jackson chucked in the towel the last time we did this after question 1. Joe, we're going to come to you first. The number is 4 and it involves Arsenal.
Oh, come on, Joe.
Number's 4 and it involves Arsenal.
Come on, Joe.
Is that the amount of shots they had against Southampton or something? I didn't watch the game, so I'm not too sure. But something like
that? No, not too far away. It was pretty dire against Southampton. I think they only registered 2 shots on target each. But it's actually the amount of own goals they've conceded in all competitions this season. More than any other Premier League side. And you've become quite a fan of Southampton, Joe, and Hassan Hurtel and James Ward-Prowse. Do you take any of Southampton's squad right now? My only caveat there is, or my only condition there is, they have to start if you take them.
What's in Manchester United?
Absolutely.
If they have to start, no. I'd say the closest is potentially someone like Vestergaard, who I think has had an outstanding season back there. Obviously, Danny Ings is their best player for sure, but if he has to start over Cavani, I'd be reticent just with the injury problems and stuff. So no, but equally, like Southampton, I think you know what? I think Hassan Hüttl hit it on the head with Danny Ings, because obviously there's a lot of chat, isn't there, about him leaving the club and him wanting Champions League football and stuff. And Hassan Hüttl obviously gave a great press conference. He said, look, Danny Ings can have Champions League football if he scores another 10, 15 goals this season, because it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Southampton can qualify for Europe this season.
Yeah.
With Ings firing on all cylinders. They've been so impressive, and Southampton fans must be tired of hearing people go, oh, do you know what? Look at the turnaround since that 9-0. Like, forget the 9-0. That's years ago now. Look at the levels that Hassan Hüttl has got this group playing at, because there's no single outstanding individual in there really other than Danny Ings. He's managed to get one of the most cohesive units in the Premier League playing, and it doesn't really matter who comes in, who comes out. His style of football is so clear that I think you've just got to take your hat off to him. And he's obviously heavily linked to like the Borussia Dortmund jobs and some decent roles within Germany. He's such a good manager, Ralph Hasenhüttl. I just think Southampton, if you look at like the expenditure and stuff, that They are doing a fantastic job, and he's almost entirely to thank for that. So I don't think I would take an individual because the squad collective is so amazing under Ralph Hasenhüttl.
Yeah, it's a bit of a loaded question, to be honest, because like you said, and one of the favourite sayings of mine, they are sort of more than the sum of their parts right now, and that is normally an indication of a game-changing manager, isn't it? Yeah, so really interesting. I do like the look of Diallo, though. He's come into the team. He's done really well in recent weeks, and hopefully he will continue to become more important to them. Will, the number is 15 for you on your numbers game, and it is to do with Everton.
Total goals Calvert-Lewin's got this season?
I think only Harry Kane has more goals than Calvert-Lewin this season in all competitions. That might be just Englishmen, to be fair. But no, it's how many games Everton have won this season from their 23 matches in all competitions, which is a win ratio of 65%. And it's just one fewer than the Toffees managed throughout the whole of last season, which was 16 wins out of 43. So it's safe to say they are making steady progress. Now, Will, Everton play Leicester in midweek, and if they win, I know that's a tasty game. If they win, which is a big if, it is at Goodison, by the way, not that home advantage has really played a massive part this season, they will go 4th in the Premier League. Now, how much stopping power do you think they have? Because I keep expecting them to drop off, and, game week 20 or game week 19 for them maybe, they're still there.
Yeah, I think this season, what's been interesting to see as well is Carlo's getting the best out of some of the players, some of the squad players that maybe have been, just taking the wages over the time. He's got rid of Walcott down to Southampton, didn't fancy him, but like Gylfi Sigurdsson hitting a bit of form as well, and Michael Keane and people like that. So that's been great to see that he's been actually coaching those players and making those better, and then just adding a little sprinkling on the top with your James Rodriguez's, and obviously Calvert-Lewin's form speaks for itself. So they've got a squad there. No European football as well, which is going to be interesting for this back end of the season with you like see Southampton's, Everton, and dare I say Aston Villa. But I do think they could be there or thereabouts, definitely for a top 4, just because they've got a good squad and a squad that's playing well.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting observation because at times this season, I mean, he has spent money, Ancelotti, but he's been without Alan. He's been without James Rodriguez, hasn't he? And they've still found a way, Joe. You think top 4 is just beyond them at the moment? What about top 6? Which camp are you in?
I think both of them are feasible. I actually think Everton are fully capable of finishing top 4. The issue might be that the squad is slightly thinner than some of the rivals. So, an injury to a Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Richarlison or more injuries to James suddenly becomes a massive problem for Everton and Carlo Ancelotti. But yeah, he's gone firing on all cylinders at the moment. There's absolutely no reason they can't qualify for Europe, given the ups and downs of many of the teams around them. And like Will said, not having to play on Thursday nights, that could come back to bite United. You never know. Champions League might really harm some of the teams that have got to then go and play on Saturdays and Sundays. So that could help them. I think it's very possible they finish top 6 ever this season.
Oh, everyone's very positive on winners and losers this morning. I like it. Let's move on to moment of the weekend then. And I've tweaked this slightly. So instead of it being our moment of the weekend, because no doubt yours would be something United related, Joe, I've gone for fan submissions, and you pair are gonna vote for your favourite one, right? Okay. So number 1 is from Ibra 1027, and it's Hazard finally scoring and registering an assist in a 4-1 routing of Alaves. We've got one from Folds Ashley saying Atalanta routing Milan. Of course, beat them convincingly, didn't they? I believe it was away from home. And WH Mako rounding off the suggestions with Mikel Antonio sending Matheus Pereira back to the Championship, which was an unbelievable coming together of shoulders. And yeah, he almost disappeared down a black hole, didn't he, Matheus Pereira? So, Will, let's start with you. Out of those 3, what would you opt for as a highlight of the weekend?
Can I throw an honourable mention in very quickly?
Of course you can.
I think that 20 minutes when Alfie May scored the goal for Cheltenham Town, where everyone apart from Manchester City fans, we were in FA Cup dreamland, really bringing home the magic of the Cup, Chris. So Alfie May getting a goal there. But I'll go for Antonio, purely for the fact we both work in football media, all of us do. And, there's a trend going around at the moment where, I'm doing an interview, will you do a celebration for me, football player? And I did that. and sometimes it's cost me in the past. But last weekend, Mikel Antonio did a backstroke swimming celebration, and that was down to me and Declan Rice, and he did it. So it'll be in my heart. Thank you, Mikel Antonio.
That's class. Joseph?
Well, less said about celebrations, the better, because the last one I asked someone to do was Jesse Lingard. He didn't score for a year. So I'll say, do you know what? I'll say Atalanta. I think a 3-0 away victory at Milan is not to be scoffed at this season.
Yeah.
And I think Juventus particularly will have been thanking them pretty big time for a result like that. So yeah, I'll say Atalanta. I don't think Antonio counts, man. That was last Tuesday, like a week ago.
Good lad though, Joe. Good lad, Joe.
Including that, I think that's very harsh. So yeah, I'll say Atalanta.
I want to shout out Luis Suarez as well, actually. The league's top goal scorer over in Spain. 12 goals in his first 15 starts for Atleti, only bettered by Ronaldo's start at Real Madrid in Spain. So
really great
what a mistake it was. What a mistake it was letting him go. Meanwhile, Barcelona are relying on Ricky Puig to come on and score a header, who Coman's tried to get rid of for the last 6 months. So absolutely
the funniest
fantastic
thing about Suarez is they actually cancelled his contract. Like, they were so keen to get rid of him. They didn't even fancy just leaving him on the bench. It was like, no, get him out of the squad.
I'm going to use that to get us out of this show. Big thank you to Manscaped, who, of course, sponsored today's winners and losers. Like we said at the start, go and check the link in the description for more info. We've sorted you guys 20% off. Big thanks to Joe and William for joining us. Will, as our guest, is there anything that you would like to push towards, should the audience have made it this far?
Just come over to my Twitch, man. It's pretty cool over there. Play a bit of Football Manager. And just generally, it's better than this. It's quite, my coffee's still kicking in, but it is a little bit better than this.
Who are you managing now?
I started one with Forest Green, but I'll be honest, Chris, if this makes the edit, I'm probably going to chuck it in.
There we have it. All right. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.